what's coming.
Jimmy and JoAnne, we're about to begin another episode of Unseen Libya. How are you guys doing tonight?
One foot after the other.
I love what you've done with the set, and you're both looking very nice today. Everything's good in Texas?
Yeah, the doctor prescribed some oxygen for me, so I'm nebulizing several times a day, so that's why I'm getting a little bit of color back.
Yeah, you look good. Nebulizing. It's nebulous.
Oxygen, you stick this thing in your nose, and insurance wouldn't pay for it, so we rented one. It must be a 1920s version, because when we turn it on, the lights kind of dim down.
Wow. So it's like the iron lung, right?
It is kind of like that.
This is leftover from us being
from the
attack.
Yeah, from the attack. JoAnne's been able to purge it from her system, but I haven't been successful. So.
Wow. So that was an attack of mold at the house, or you're talking about the attacks that you guys sustained while in Libya?
When they hit us with the toxins in Dallas.
Remember when we got so sick when we were gone?
Yes, that was at the convention there where we all met.
No. This was in November.
This last November. We
Remind
went out
us what that was all about.
That was it was when we went out to get all our key people signed up again. We had to make a long trip, and when we were in Dallas waiting to go to the dentist, we had planned to be there 2 or 3 days, and they put some toxins in the HVAC system of the car. And Connie didn't have anything ready, the dentist, so we just got in the car and drove home. And when we got home, we absolutely got violently ill, both of us, within 5 minutes. And we were, just as sick as a dog, but we never had any temperature. So that was the real strange thing. And so for several days, we were absolutely, we couldn't move. We were just sick. But we did have what we needed here. We had silver colloid, and we had EDTA, and we had a lot of things so we could purge that out of our system. But of course, didn't get it all out. But we were supposed to be hit while we were in Dallas, and of course, we would have been there without any of the help we needed. We would have been stuck in a motel, and we were just deathly sick.
Wow.
And we found out.
Yeah, we found out later from one of the people that are in the inside. He said they hit it. It wasn't a poison. He called it a toxin. They put a toxin into the air inlet in the car.
It's amazing the number of ways that they can get to you if they want to. And it's these little things, if they're disrupting you by making you sick, if they're throwing off your business, your bank accounts. It's these minor things where you can't really go to the police. They're not really even likely to be anybody who's going to listen or care, and they might think you're crazy. That's part of the goal, right? It's a pretty appropriate topic for us to discuss today, being Martin Luther King Day, and everybody basically knows that Martin Luther King was the subject of this COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program. You think you guys is this the same thing evolved?
No, they're hitting, similar. It's the same type of people, but of course, they keep trying to shut us up like they do you. They don't have any way to take us to court and hope to get anything. So the attorneys and the judges that would typically be a party to any kind of legal action. So what they do is they try to disrupt us and cause us enough distress so that they think maybe one day we will finally give up and just shut up. But, that really doesn't help the Libyans. It doesn't help us. And we've been tasked to try to bring forward the truths that we saw. And
we've had a lot of divine intervention that saved our lives. Our lives have been really threatened a number of times. We should be dead maybe 2 or 3 times already. So, if a toxin hits us, They planted drugs in our car. They've zapped the computers in our car. All these things that they've done to us. And Jerry Corsi was picked up one time. He had his attorney and everything with him. They kept him for 30 hours or so. When they picked us up, we had nobody. They kept us 31 and a half hours. Right. Wouldn't give us a badge or ID or anything. So that's how they roll. They're just bad guys.
Yeah.
They're undercurrents.
We've got Scott NYC joining us. He said he hasn't seen you guys in so long. If there are other people who haven't seen Jimmy and JoAnne in a while, I hope they'll visit LibyanWarTheTruth.com. That's Jimmy and JoAnne's free website. And if you want to learn all about their experience in Libya, you can purchase the Escape from Al-Qaeda DVD. It's a $15 disc, and it's $5 for shipping domestically within the United States. Of course, sponsors of Jimmy and JoAnne on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty are going to get free shipping on that disc. They're also going to get access to our sponsor-exclusive show, which is starting in just about 25 minutes on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. JoAnne, what have you prepared for us tonight? I know you sent over a bunch of material. You want to give everybody an overview of what we're going to be talking about?
Yeah. Libya really is under the microscope or the magnifying glass of the world right now. What has happened in Libya. We're going to talk about what's happened in Libya, how it got there, why it's there, and what happened at the Berlin conference that supposedly was going to talk about how they were going to get peace in Libya, and what the tribes are doing. And there's movement all the time. It's constant. It's moving really fast. The Libyan people came very close to taking their country back, and then Turkey got all upset and decided to send their troops in. They did send some troops. They sent a huge amount of militias in, Syrian militias. They're moving them from Syria into Tripoli. And there were Putin and Erdogan and some other people, Italy got involved and said we need a ceasefire in Tripoli. If there had not been a ceasefire, the Libyan people would have finished cleaning their country. But they agreed to a ceasefire. Within an hour, the ceasefire was broken by the terrorists, so you can't negotiate with terrorists.
But Erdogan has openly declared that he plans to invade Libya based on a phony memorandum of understanding he made with the phony government in Tripoli. That in effect, the phony UN government turned over Libya to Turkey. And so based on a memorandum of understanding that is not legal under any circumstances, he thinks he has the right to go in and take over Libya. And so he's indicated, he's spoken. He said he's going to move his invasionary military in there. He's already been moving terrorists in there. He has sworn to continue to move in terrorists.
This is a lie. This is a complete lie, because he agreed to have his militias lay down their arms to the Libyan army, which represents all the Libyan people. And as soon as they left the conference, as soon as they had the ceasefire, he ordered the militias to begin attacking the Libyan army. So he's Muslim Brotherhood. He has no intent of doing anything for peace in Libya, because 99% of the Libyan people are against Turkey, against the Muslim Brotherhood. They don't want them in their country. And Erdogan has pulled this, we're going to rebuild the Ottoman Empire, and there's Turkish blood left from 200-300 years ago when the Ottoman Empire was in there, or 100 years ago, I don't know how long it was. And we want to come fight for our brothers and give them back Libya. This kind of crazy stuff that he's saying.
But Turkey is such a big, massive military power because, the NATO moved its military headquarters for that entire area into Turkey. And so Erdogan is recognized as a world leader now. And he is really a psychopath. He's crazy as the peach orchard boar in May. And
I love those Jimmyisms. Peach orchard boars. Are they craziest in May, Jimmy? Because I don't know if the audience is familiar.
Because in the peach tree, when it gets cold, the sap goes down the tree, and the boar is in there. It's still alive, but it's starving to death because there's nothing coming up that tree, And so when the weather starts to warm up, that sap starts coming up the tree, and little boar, instead of staying there and getting his belly full, he jumps out of this tree and goes and bores a hole in another. Oh my God, there's some more over here, and he goes to another one. So he bounces around from tree to tree, making new holes because he can't believe he's still alive.
See that we're going to learn about all kinds of things even beyond Libya. I didn't know about peach orchard boars, but I like that. There's another thing I wanted to point out to both of you about this photograph that I find very interesting. So this quite clearly appears to be Erdogan on some kind of presidential jet. We can tell by the shape of this room this overhead stuff, this exit over here. This looks like a jet to me, doesn't it?
Yep,
Yes, it
it
is,
does.
yeah.
It's got to be a jet.
Yeah.
Right.
So
It's
he's
a
in there
jumbo
sort of
and
like
some-
Batman or some James Bond villain. We got a little feedback happening over there. He's like some Batman villain, James Bond villain, really gaining power.
Oh, he's a mess. And the trouble is the group, the Muslim Brotherhood regime that was installed in Tripoli by the UN had a 2-year mandate, and the Libyan people never wanted it. It was never welcome in Libya. They never agreed to it. They just snuck it in there by night and said, "Oh, now we recognize this as a legitimate government."
Yeah, but that was after they had a legitimate UN election in Libya, and the Libyan people voted, and they elected their own officials, but none of those were Muslim Brotherhood. So up jumps the UN, and they install their own government. Forget the vote of the people. That didn't count. They didn't vote the right people in, so we're going to put in our own people. That's how the GNA got established.
And they began stealing Libyan money, oil money, to do whatever they wanted with it. They never acted like a legitimate government. I call them a regime. Yeah. And so they have become so hated. They're held in place by these militias from Misrata and around Tripoli. These are supplied by Turkey.
They're recognized by the U.S., UN, and everybody. They turned over all the oil income and gas income to this phony government out of Tripoli instead of legitimately elected government. So, they're in collusion. The GNA is in collusion with the bad guys in the world. And they're so blatantly terrorist.
And Erdogan, he's a little bit kind of in the catbird seat, right? Everybody's meeting with him. He's got these pictures. I don't know what that Daily Sabah is, but it seems like he's engaging in his own little social engineering campaign to make everybody think that he's helping Libya. He's gained quite a lot of influence. I don't know that we heard quite as much about Turkey in the past as we have in recent years. And here he is. He's meeting with Putin. Obviously, Turkey has a huge amount of influence. It seems like perhaps he's manipulating NATO. I mean, which side is he on?
Oh, yeah. Libyan people say, who is Erdogan to speak for our country? He doesn't speak for us.
But you've got to look at Erdogan was the guy that was bringing in all the militias into Syria to take over Syria. He was the front guy for the U.S., UN, and company to take over Syria. He's been the
New World Control.
Yeah, he's been the attack dog for the New World Order forever. And
what was he promised?
He was promised that he would be able to reestablish the Ottoman Empire. He was promised that. And if you remember the old Ottoman Empire, the guy that was head of that was called Suleiman the Magnificent. He was a blood ogre. He was the worst despot ever to come down the pike. And so now then we got this new idiot in there, and he has named himself the Magnificent One, and he's going to reestablish the Ottoman Empire. He's going to establish the caliphate, and he's going to be the Khalifa. And he's been promised that by the New World Order, the Khazarian Mafia, the Zionists. And so because he's been promised that, he's going to do it. And so, here's what he's now going to go do what he's promised he could do. And the rest of the world said, "Oh shit, we can't have this happen. This guy's really nuts," and he is.
I hope he'll get a hat like this.
They start, oh yeah, well, I think he's hiding his opium or something up in that hat, because the guy was nuts. But the thing that Erdogan said, if you stop my GNA government in Tripoli, then I'm going to start bringing all these terrorists into Europe, and I will dismantle the entire European Union with these illegal immigrants. And so he started already taking them into
they're
Europe.
Not illegal immigrants, they're militias, really.
Yeah, they are.
They're
but he's calling them immigrants,
Yeah, but they're terrorists.
And so when you've got Europe looking at this crazy bastard, and they say, "Oh, we can't have this, so we need to contain him where he is." So based on that, all these big governments said, "What are we going to do?" Well, we better have a conference to try to figure out what we can do, because Erdogan's not doing what he said he's going to do. He's lying to us and making us look bad. Putin's got egg all over his face from the ceasefire that didn't last 10 minutes, brokered by Putin with Erdogan and the military in Libya.
Erdogan promised him that they would do all this, and immediately turned his back as soon as he left, changed everything. So Putin the next day invited all the leader of the Libyan National Army and Erdogan immediately back to Russia within 12 hours. He wanted them back there. And Haftar, who's the titular leader of the Libyan National Army, he really doesn't speak for, he's not a country leader. He's just leading the army as by request of the tribes to clean the country, because he was the only one allowed to form an army for the West, by the West, because he's a CIA operative. But he was over there and he walked out. He wouldn't even talk to Erdogan and Siraj, his GNA puppet, because they didn't, he said, why should I give anything to you? You're running this country with militias. The tribes don't want it. The people don't want it. I'm not negotiating with you for anything. And he walked out.
Well, Haftar had been given pretty definite orders from the people of Libya. And they said, if you make any kind of an agreement that reduces the opportunity for the Libyan people
or
to
benefits
clean
the
their
militias,
government, then you're going to be pushing up daisies. And so Haftar has not been given any leeway about what he is allowed to negotiate on behalf of the Libyan people. They've had enough of it.
What, Jason, what does Siraj, the Turkey puppet, what does he bring to the table? He's supported by no Libyans. He's held in place by militias. What's he going to do? How can he bargain with anything?
His entire history in Libya has been raping the country blind. Everybody that's associated with him are worth hundreds and hundreds of millions, and a lot of them billions. So he's been raping the country while the Libyan people don't have water, food, electricity, or anything.
And what's his heritage? He's Turkish.
That's Siraj. So, but Haftar, of course, is the CIA guy who miraculously people in Libya seem to support. It just seems like the pillaging of the country, it carries on.
Just a minute, Jason. They don't support Haftar. They support the army made up of their children and their families.
Haftar was promised to be the leader of Libya by the CIA and US, UN, NATO. Well, Muslim Brotherhood wasn't going to allow that because Libya was going to be their country. So after some years of Haftar trying to force his way into a leadership position in Libya, and the Muslim Brotherhood was not allowed, he finally came out from underneath the ether.
And the tribes weren't going to allow
it. And he said, he went to the tribes and he said, look, he said, the only thing left for me to do is to help you clean this country. So I'll be your military leader, and because this is what I've got to do to have any kind of position at all. So they agreed based on criteria that he laid down and agreed to, that they would have he would clean out all the terrorists out of Libya, all of them.
All the radicals, they call them radicals.
And he would then stand back and organize a countrywide election where anybody could run. And he wanted to also have the opportunity to run. And all these covenants were put in place. And when he agreed to that, then the Libyan tribes, they kind of stood back and said, well, let's see what the guy does. And so as he became more acceptable, more tribal armies came and joined with him. And so the leaders really of the army are not Haftar. He's the titular head. But all the guys on the ground, all the guys really leading the troops are tribal leaders.
Real good military generals. You have a lot of tribal, and all the weapons come from the tribes. Everything comes from the tribes over there. It's the Libyan people have not forgotten who Haftar is. Believe me, they have a long memory, and he is a traitor to Libya.
Let me interject for a second, guys, because we're just about out of time for our preview here, and we're going to be carrying on with the full show, the sponsor exclusive show, on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. In just about 10 minutes, I just want to run some of the comments by you, and maybe we'll have an opportunity to address them in the longer show. Nega tells us that Erdogan is mad with the EU because he was mocked when he asked to be a member. I don't know what you guys can tell us about that later, but with regard to Haftar, Thomas Tyson tells us you never go full tar. So that's, I guess, the key to ruling the country there. But we'll be back in just 10 minutes on Patreon and Subscribestar. People who can join us there are generous sponsors, or anyone who's watching now would like to become a sponsor. We're going to go into some detail on this Berlin conference. I don't know that too many people in the mainstream news in the United States are even talking about this. Everybody is preoccupied with the Second Amendment rally in Virginia, the impeachment of President Donald Trump. This is also very important international geopolitical developments. So I'll see you guys in just 10 minutes over at Patreon and Subscribestar. Yep.
Everybody needs to come because we've actually got some of the dialogue that took place at the conference in Germany.
Great. We'll look forward to that. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.